I want to talk about something I have been thinking about, which is where the heck are all the matriarchal societies in my literature? Probably know if you watch this channel, but I read a lot of fantasy. And I read a lot of high fantasy, read a lot of epic fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy where it doesn't take place on Earth, essentially. And with that comes a ton of imagination, a ton of world building, a ton of building of cultures and magic systems. And I know that authors draw a lot of inspiration from real events in real times when they're writing these books. While I'm not a history buff and I don't really look into the historical aspects of a book when I'm reading them, I see people talk about it in their reviews if that's something they're into. I read a lot of fantasy written by men, but I also read fantasy written by women. And I don't want to just call out women specifically, but I just have a question for female fantasy sci-fi authors. Why aren't you writing matriarchal societies? I was thinking about this, and I don't think that I have ever read a fantasy, or really any books, that take place in a matriarchal society. And I'm just but why not? So many of the times, these books that I read are patriarchies, and women are maybe not even the protagonists at all. They're having to contend with sexism and misogyny, and so much of their struggles are struggles that women on Earth deal with all the time. I'm thinking back, what books have I read with by female authors that are fantasy? And I just read the entire realm of the Elderling, and most of the societies are very patriarchal. There is one matriarchal society in it that you don't see until the third series. But generally speaking, there's a lot more male characters that are at the focus, and the societies, generally speaking, are patriarchal. I read The Poppy War by RF Kuang, and that also is a patriarchal society where you follow a female protagonist, and a lot of her things that she has to contend with is racism, but also sexism. I think the one that I'm thinking about the most is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda, which I'm currently reading slowly, very slowly. I am at the beginning of Jade Legacy. And this is one where there's not just sexism in it, but there is. There's sexism, and there's a lot of racism in it between different groups of people, and specifically one character. There's a lot of ideology about women being able to be strong, but they also are portrayed in a way where they're weaker than men, and the men see them as lesser or weaker. They see them as there to provide for the children and to breed for them, for lack of a better term. And there is a high-ranking woman in one of the clans, but she is a very flat character. And one of the things I've been hoping for is to get her perspective a little bit, to humanize her, but it's very she has to have these male values or masculine values to be taken seriously in her role. And I just I think about this, and I'm why are we writing these books where these, why not? You can write about anything. You make up these really cool magic systems, the Broken Earth trilogy with that magic system, an earth kind of bending magic system. Or the Greenbone Saga with like the use of jade and harnessing a stone. Or like, I don't know, like we get so creative with these magic systems. And then when it comes to a world in which women are not treated as lesser, we like can't get creative with that. Like, so I've like looked into series. I'm like, what can I read that has matriarchal societies in it? And the list isn't that big. I was watching a video recently that was talking about Evan Winter's series. I'll put a picture here. And apparently that's a matriarchal society, but it like falls into all of like the sexist, patriarchal, misogynistic tropes. And it's like missing that point, apparently. I haven't read the book. I have a list. I will post it below, but like have you guys read any books with matriarchal societies that were like written well, or really any at all? I would love to hear, but this is just kind of like my call out to like, why aren't we doing this? And can we get some books that fit that criteria? I don't personally think I'm asking for much, but I'm also not an author. So anyway, that is all I got for this video. So until next time, happy reading.